did good this week. I am pretty proud of how it went this week with the Pantry Challenge. Welcome back to Plow and Pantry. I'm Alicia, and if you are new here, I am in the middle of a hopefully 2-month Pantry Challenge, part of the 3 Rivers Challenge this year. I normally do this just in February, but this year decided to try both January and February. With the 3 Rivers Challenge, you do get to pick your own rules, and I have chosen, we're a family of 5, by the way. My son is in college. He was here half the month, or not half, but some of the month. My rules, though, are $50 a week at the grocery store. Everything else needs to be from the pantry. I, however, will not ignore a super slammin' deal. If it's awesome, I will stock up on something and be like, okay. But if you want more about my rules and how this all works, I will link my my intro video to the Pantry Challenge. But this week, and now I fully aware going into this, and I think I said it in my intro video too, that the Pantry Challenge is always easiest the first week because that is when you are most stocked on things. My $50 a week was for produce, orange juice, milk, stuff like that. But this week, even though I have to admit I'm stocked, so I'm doing well, I was actually really happy with how things turned out. So here's how the week went down. I managed to get some pictures of most of the food and a couple little video clips that I will overlay into this. And I just opened a document on my computer and made notes each day as I remembered, because I know I'm not gonna remember, and I didn't want to forget if I forget to take a picture or something. It was just easiest this way. So I'm gonna be looking at the notes here. I mentioned in the Pantry Challenge video on the 1st that I was having cinnamon rolls for breakfast that morning. I had made the dough the night before. That was something I had been craving for a while, so we made those. Everyone enjoyed them. For lunch that day and partly dinner, we just had leftover snacks from New Year's Eve. The way we do New Year's Eve is we make the whole afternoon and evening, I make appetizer food and sit it out, and it's like an all day, all night grazing thing. But we had a lot left this year. We're still eating some of this stuff. I'd really like to get it out of the house. But we just had leftover snacks from that for lunch that day. And then for dinner, we had leftovers from the whole week and New Year's Eve snacks. I know we had some leftover pesto chicken penne from the week. We had some chips and dips and stuff. And then because I like to start the Pantry Challenge with a very clean fridge, I had done a deep clean on my refrigerator, and I discovered that I had not only a lot of tortillas, but a lot of partial bags of cheese that were unlabeled. I usually buy cheese in chunks and shred it myself because I don't like the anti-caking powder they put on pre-shredded cheese. But I had a lot of Ziploc bags that were partially full with different cheeses that I hadn't labeled. And so I was having to go through and be is this mozzarella? Is this Monterey Jack? What is this? But that was one of the things I needed to use up, was cheese. So I also, in addition to the leftovers from both the week and the snacks, I had made some quesadillas. I took several of those packaged and dumped them in a bowl and mixed them together and just made quesadillas. Everyone liked them, so they were all good. So I think I did get a short video clip of the little buffet line, or at least part of it, one stage of it, because it kind of changes as the night goes on. Anyways, that was January 1st. Tuesday, January 2nd for breakfast. My husband and son they both ate out at different things. My son was meeting up with his old youth pastor for breakfast. I don't remember where my husband was. I think he actually had a dental appointment. One of my daughters slept through breakfast. So my youngest and I had bacon, egg, and cheese croissants. I had bought croissants for the New Year's Eve thing. I didn't even end up opening them because I overplanned. I think I was excited to have my son home, and so I overplanned all the food. So I made bacon, egg, and cheese croissants. We always have eggs because we have chickens, and I have plenty of bacon. Where am I? Looking at my notes here. So lunch was kind of on their own. Everybody ate different things. That's typical on either weekends or weekdays that there's no school. I don't make lunches. People make their own, either make their own thing they want or pick a leftover or something like that. For dinner that night, I'm still working with leftovers here. We had some lettuce, we had chips, like tortilla chips left from New Year's Eve. We had cheese, like I just said, some salad ingredients. So I got out a can of ground beef from the downstairs pantry, my long-term storage pantry. When I had canned ground beef a while ago, I sauteed it up with some taco seasoning and made taco salad for dinner that night. I also made, so let me just say this. I will probably never in my life make Chex Mix from scratch again. Not because it's hard. It's not something we've eaten around here. I'm not like a super, ooh, I love Chex Mix fan. I know some people really are. But my son had discovered it in college. I don't know if like a roommate had it or what, but he'd had Chex Mix and he liked that as a snack. And so I had been like buying him little packages and sending them to him. So I decided while he was home, I would make it from scratch at home, be a little less processed. It takes like 3 different boxes of cereal, different other like pretzels and other things. So I made the Chex Mix, which we still have some left over. I have these partial boxes of cereal of stuff we don't eat, different pretzels, like bugles, like stuff we don't normally have in the house. So I will just in the future, if I think he's gonna want Chex Mix, I will buy a pre-made bag, even though they're kind of expensive. It's less expensive than buying all the different ingredients and then having all the stuff left and sitting around the house that I don't really wanna eat. I used the Chex cereal part to make Muddy Buddies. There is still a partial box left, but I made those just to use up some of the Chex for New Year's Eve. So that was also on Tuesday, and I sent some of that to school with the girls today because I want it out of the house. Wednesday, January 3rd, croissant sandwiches again for 2, my youngest and I, because everybody else was either sleeping or had some place to be early in the morning and skipped breakfast. For lunch, most of us were still eating on leftover. My husband did pull some orange chicken from the deep freezer. That is the stuff from Trader Joe's, one of his favorite things. For dinner that night, I pulled a bag of Thai chicken from the deep freezer and put it in the crock pot. That is something I made on video. I'm pretty sure I made it when I made the M5 chicken freezer meals. I will link that video for the busy season. That's sitting out in my deep freezer. So I had actually made 2 bags of that, but I pulled both out because I had made it according to our family with my son not here because he eats the most, but he was here still. So I just made both bags and had leftovers. And what I did with that was I turned it into like an Asian bowl bar. So we had I made jasmine rice. We have that in the pantry. I made the Thai chicken in the crock pot, so you put that on top, and then I had a bar of toppings, and there was we had lemon you could squeeze on it, cilantro, green onion. I chopped up peanuts. All these things were either in the fridge or pantry that need to be used up. Shredded carrot. I had a cucumber that needed to be used up, so I sliced it real thin and made like an Asian quick pickle cucumber to go in them, and that was really good. So that was dinner that night, and it made 2 lunches during the week as well. Thursday, January 4th, had my first wrench thrown in the plan, okay? Now, when you do a challenge, something always comes up, and I don't know if it's because it's like Murphy's Law, something's gonna come up, or if I only notice it because it's a challenge. I might just notice it because it takes me off my plan, and I hate going off my plan. But I'm trying to stick to my plan. So with Thursday, I found out one of my kids, my youngest, needs to go dairy-free for at least a month to see if that will alleviate some skin issues that popped up. So I am trying still to stick with the pantry challenge and the same budget for now. I'm not gonna let myself stress too much. If I need to break it, little bits here and there. We have not had a whole lot of time to sit down and go through ideas, but we're only like 4 days into this, and we've managed it well so far. So wrench in the plan. This is a personality thing. I'm trying to not let it mess with me. All right. So Thursday morning, I made baked oatmeal for the breakfast for the kids. That is something we eat about every week during school year. For lunches, okay, here's how I do school day lunches in my house. My oldest is gone. He's a freshman in college. But the rule has always been, since they were old enough, which was like early elementary, I will make their lunch, but I get to decide what goes in it, or they can make their lunch and they get to decide what goes in it. Various levels of control freak there, but they can't like change last minute and tell me that morning. It's either a consistent, this is what, like, I want you to make them for me every day. I'm not going to make the lunches in the morning and then have someone say, oh, I was gonna make my lunch, but I don't want to, will you make it? No, I'm not gonna mess with that. So with enough notice, I will change or do like a random day here and there, but for the most part, that's how it works. So the way it works right now, my middle kid does not want to make her lunch. She wants a PB&J. That's easy. Every single day she has a PB&J for lunch and whatever sides I put in there. My youngest kid makes her own lunch and she has for years. She just likes to decide on her own what to eat, and she likes to vary it a lot. Right now she's kind of on a salad kick. She took a salad the other day. My oldest had a PB&J with freeze-dried apples. That's a common snack around here that we love to have. A tangerine, we have those sitting on the island. They need to get used up. And a package of those peanut butter sandwich crackers. I'm not keeping track, by the way, every day of what my kids take to school, but I have noted it just a few times just to give you a general picture of what's getting used for that. Okay, dinner that night, Thursday night, I pulled out a roast from the freezer. So I have 2 deep freezers. In the basement, I have one that is pretty strictly meat. And in my garage, I have an upright one. It's my preference, is an upright freezer. That is everything else. Except that my meat has kind of expanded and fit into there. And so I'm trying to like use that meat first for the most part during this challenge. And so I just stuck my hand, it's like the top shelf is half meat, and I just stuck my hand up there and grabbed the top thing and pulled it down, and it was a beef roast. I honestly couldn't tell you what kind of beef roast. I don't usually pay attention to that. I just pay attention to the price of it, because most roasts I put in the crock pot or instant pot. They'd need like a low and slow or a long cook time, and they'll be fine. And then when I saw that it was a beef roast, I was like, you know what I haven't done in a long time is made a Mississippi roast. I actually only made that once. I know some people love it. We thought it was okay. It was good, but it wasn't like, to us, it wasn't like, ooh, this is delicious. But we liked it enough. I was like, I'll make that again. I wonder if I have the stuff. So I start to pull stuff out, and I don't have the stuff. A Mississippi roast has like pepperoncinis, an au jus gravy mix, I think a ranch mix, something else. I don't know. I'm not positive. But I didn't have the stuff. But I was like, you know, people put just packets of things in with their roasts. I'll do that. I'll just put packets of things. So I put in, and I found some stuff that I don't normally have in my pantry. I had a packet, I believe a very cheap packet from Aldi that I got on sale of Italian dressing mix, like dry Italian dressing mix. Never have that, because if we're gonna have Italian, I'll make it, it's easy. Don't know why I even bought that, except for maybe random times like this, right? So I put the Italian dressing mix in there. I put some ranch mix. I make my own dry ranch mix. I have a recipe for that on my blog. I can link that recipe below. I don't know if I've made it here on YouTube. If I have, I will link it. So I put the ranch, the Italian. I have found a couple boxes. I remember finding this deal. Onion soup mix, not something I normally buy because I make my own. The packets, they're expensive, of like all the dry mixes, right? They're expensive, and they have like anti-caking agents and fillers I don't like, but they're also very convenient. So I remember getting this super good deal on like the Lipton onion soup mix, and so I went ahead and bought some. But because I don't use them that often, they expired like last month, which I'm okay with using. In a future video, when I clean out my long-term pantry storage and organize it, I will go through for you how I make decisions about expired food and soon-to-be expired food. But I had that, so I put in the crock pot, instant pot, put in the instant pot this roast with Italian dressing mix, ranch mix, onion soup mix, and I put a whole stick of butter in there, and I cooked it. And it was so good. It was so good. Everybody liked it, which is not, my husband doesn't love beef roasts, but he liked it. My middle daughter doesn't love meat in general. She had 2 servings. It was so good. So good. In addition to that, let's see, what else did we have? Oh, pantry green beans I made for a side dish that night, and that's just, I made a video for this week to show you what I do, because it's just, that's what I get questions about. Like, There's the questions about the gardening and then the preservation of the garden. And then, well, what do you do with this? So I can a lot of green beans in the summer. And I've always just called this Pantry green beans. It's like a recipe I made up. It starts with the canned green beans that you saute in bacon grease with bacon. And then there's some other seasonings in it. I made a video. I will say, because I think I forgot to say in that video, it matters what bacon you use as far as salt content. I buy no nitrate good bacon, but I also get some of that no nitrate good bacon through Butcher Box, and the Butcher Box bacon is not my favorite. I love their other meats, but it's very salty. I don't add any other salt to those green beans because the bacon is salty. But I did make a video with the Pantry green beans. So we have the roast, that was delicious, the Pantry green beans, and then I also was experimenting with a potato bake. I'm working on a free recipe thing for seasonal eating to help you use like tomatoes during the summertime type stuff. And right now I'm working on a couple of winter recipes, just a few recipes from each season. I do think seasonal eating is important. I don't think it's bad to eat produce in the wrong season. I do think it's good to eat it in the right season though, if that makes sense. So I was experimenting the potato bake, a seasoned potato bake. It was really good, but I still want to mess with it. Everyone in the family liked it, but I was like, oh, if I did this different and this different, it would be like the bomb. So I will probably make that again this coming week, and change it. So that was Thursday. Long story on Thursday, right? The roast, the green beans, the potato bake. Okay, Friday, January 5th, for breakfast, I made the girls chocolate chip muffins. That is one of their favorite breakfasts. It's like an oat-based recipe. Dinner, I didn't keep track of what they ate for lunch that day. Dinner was hamburger chili with chips left over from New Year's Eve. So hamburger chili is a recipe, it's a family recipe. My husband grew up with his mom making this, and I think she got it in the 80s from one of those cookbooks that was put out by a brand company, like Kraft or something, where it's I think everything was 5 ingredients or less, and it's all uses, a box of this, a can of that type stuff. This is, it's ground beef, which we had in the freezer, canned tomatoes, have in the pantry, rice, have in the pantry, chili powder, and onion. So I think that's everything in it. And then when you cook it together, you eat it with tortilla, you scoop it with tortilla chips and eat it that way. So we had a ton of tortilla chips left from New Year's Eve with the hamburger chili dish. That was all stuff we had on hand. And so that was dinner on Friday. Saturday, January 6th. Breakfast was on their own on Saturday. Everybody makes, some people make a real breakfast. Some people have cereal. I ate Chex cereal, which I never eat. I'm not a cold cereal fan, but I was trying to use it up. I think the last little bit of it's gonna go to the chickens. I think they'll eat Chex cereal. It's kind of hard. I think I'm gonna try anyways. Some of it's gone to the dog. Okay, I ate, let's see, for lunches, we ate leftovers. We had Asian bowls and the hamburger chili dish. I always make I double or triple the hamburger chili dish recipe because my husband loves it as leftovers, and my daughter will take it in my youngest daughter who makes her own lunch, she'll take it in her lunch. And it just makes that easier for her. So Saturday breakfast on your own, leftovers for lunch. For dinner, I pulled out a casserole from the freezer, which was another one I made in that video of chicken meals for the freezer. It was a chicken broccoli potato bake. We really liked that. That was a new to me recipe at that time, and we enjoyed that one. I'm sure I will have that linked somewhere, or an iCard or something like that. I also, for a side dish to that, made edamame, and here is one of those places where the pantry challenge comes in handy. I occasionally buy something that we don't eat all the time. Okay, let me make this disclaimer. When I say all the time, there are things we use all the time, like canned tomatoes, because they go in so many things. Ground beef, it goes in so many things. Boneless, skinless chicken breast, we use it. It doesn't mean I'm eating the same thing all the time, like the same dishes. I actually have different stuff all the time. Like a lot of people talk about their throwdown recipe they have at least once a week. I don't have anything like that. So when I'm referencing all the time, I mean, it's just an ingredient that we commonly use in a lot of different dishes. Okay. We had edamame that night because it's not something I use all the time, but I found it probably last February, because I'm pretty sure that's freezer month and all the stuff is on sale in the freezer. So it's been there a while in my deep freezer. And this is why the pantry challenge comes in handy, especially for me, it's more handy for the freezer because that is my organization nemesis. I'm a very organized person, but I have not found a system that is flexible enough for me in the freezers. I have done the different containers, different shelves. Like I have a shelf that's meat, a shelf that's fruits and vegetables, a shelf that's like frozen pizzas and stuff. Eventually though, like if it's brand new, cleaned out, it's all looking nice. But eventually as I get deals and stock it more, I run out of room in one area and stuff in another. And then stuff gets like put all over. And edamame was one of those things. I didn't get around to using it, didn't remember it was there. But then all of a sudden, because I've pulled so much from the freezer this week, it was front and center. And I was like, I'm standing there pulling that casserole out thinking, well, what side dish am I gonna make? And there's the edamame. We'll have edamame with our dinner. Okay. That is one of the things I love about doing the pantry challenge. Because for me, especially with the freezer, the best way to organize is actually just to declutter. And I'm not a food waster, so declutter means use it and eat it, right? It's just too packed for a first in, first out type of situation. So the chicken, potato, broccoli bake from the freezer, the edamame from the freezer, and then I also opened just a can of corn from the downstairs basement. That's my long-term storage pantry. Just a can of corn from the summer. I just put butter and salt and pepper on it. And that was dinner Saturday night. Sunday, the end of the first week. Every Sunday is an on your own for breakfast. We go to church. Some people will sometimes make breakfast, some don't. My husband and I usually skip it. My daughters are hit or miss. Some of them, sometimes one of them will grab like a cereal bar or a bowl of cereal or make, sometimes my youngest daughter, she's the cook. She'll like full on make something like an egg sandwich or something like that. But that is on our own for Sundays. And then on Sundays, we have lunch out with the grandparents after church. So that's what we did. Dinner on Sundays is also a routine thing where I clean out the fridge and we do like a leftover buffet and appetizers. This is something we've done like 15 years. It started as a way to like living room tailgate and watch football games. And then it's kind of just expanded also to movies. Right now we're on an NCIS spree. So dinner on Sundays, I put out leftovers and then I fill gaps if we need a little bit extra with usually some frozen processed appetizer I have bought that's in the deep freezer. I don't have a lot out there right now, so I'm a little worried about later this month. But I also repurpose leftovers a lot too. Like almost anytime there's a leftover hamburger or hot dog bun, I will make mini pizzas out of them. Things like that where you can change stuff into something different. So this last night, because today's Monday, we had leftover of that pot roast, very little leftover of that. I kind of hid it though so people wouldn't choose it because I'm gonna use it to make a grilled cheese today. I'm excited. We had a tiny bit of the chicken, potato, broccoli casserole left, some of the Thai chicken left. I remembered that I had enough. I had made pigs in a blanket on New Year's Eve and I had enough of the little Smokies left and one can of the crescent rolls just in time to make those so that the Smokies wouldn't go bad. We still had some tortilla chips and I have avocados, so I made some guacamole. So we had chips and guacamole. I pulled out half a bag. We had half a bag out there of sweet potato fries from the deep freezer. Not a lot of those got eaten and I ended up feeding them what was left to the chickens this morning because I didn't want to keep them. But it was probably, honestly, I pulled out too much food and I was okay with that because I'm in that mode where I'm cleaning out now. And I knew if my family didn't eat it, the chickens would. I also pulled out, I had 3, I'm getting to the odds and ends, y'all. 3 little like homemade PB&J Uncrustable type sandwiches from the freezer that also came out to get eaten last night. And my rule with the Sunday leftover stuff, if there are leftovers, unless it's something made in the last couple nights that I know will get eaten in the next couple days, I don't put it back in the fridge. It goes to the dog and the chickens and we start fresh. So that was the week. We did pretty well. We used a lot of stuff from around the house. I did want to point out a couple things I used that weren't meals, weren't used to make meals. One thing was frozen strawberries. I had bought some frozen sliced strawberries and put them in the deep freezer. I prefer to use those when I freeze dry strawberry slices. Freeze-dried strawberries and freeze-dried apple slices are big snacks around here. They're eaten all the time. And my girls usually take extra to school in their lunches because their friends like them too. And I'm totally okay with supplying people with healthy snacks. So I had bought those to do the to do the strawberries, and I wanted to clean out my my freeze dryer first. I clean it every year. So they had been sitting in there waiting. So I cleaned my freeze dryer, got those in. That only filled 4 trays, and I have a 5-tray freeze dryer. So I sliced up one of the apples that's in our crisper that needs to get used, and did 1 tray of apples as well. So that wasn't really for a meal, but it is stuff I got out of the freezer and fridge and is now shelf stable. And then the Chex cereal. Not for meal, made the Muddy Betties and stuff like that. So what did I buy this week? I did good. So my budget was $50, and I did so good that I actually allowed myself a little, something I didn't need, and I have money left over. So I went to Aldi for my main stuff, and then I went to my local grocery store, which is a Food City. My local grocery store had Honeycrisp apples on sale, $1.99 a pound, and that's my daughter's favorite apple, and it's what I use to make the freeze-dried apples. And so I went and bought some of those. And they also had my favorite, the only coffee creamer I drink, there on sale. They're normally more than $5 each, and they were 2 for $6. Now, normally in a pantry challenge, I would just go without the coffee creamer because I'm weird in that I drink my coffee different ways. Sometimes I drink it black, sometimes I have creamer, sometimes I don't drink coffee at all. That's rare though, I really like coffee. But since they were on sale and they have a longer expiration date, I went ahead and bought them because I had room in my budget. At Aldi, I got a half gallon of the organic milk that we drink. I got a bottle of Italian dressing. Normally I make Italian dressing, but this was like right after my daughter had the whole we can't do dairy thing, and she normally likes a ranch on her salad, and she does like the Olive Garden Italian dressing, and this is like a dupe of that. So I knew I wasn't gonna have time to like sit down and go through stuff. Since I had room in the budget, I just went ahead and bought 1 bottle just until we can get our situation sorted out. I bought a bag of brown rice crisp crackers. These are something we got into when I was experimenting with no gluten, and we like them. They're just helpful as like a snack or a side dish and lunch, etc. I got carrots to go in the salad. I'm completely out of onions, so I needed both red and yellow. I got a bag of each. I bought grapefruit. I love grapefruit. It was on sale, $3.99 for a 5-pound bag, y'all. It was amazing. I juiced half of them, and I've got my juice in the fridge because I like grapefruit and grapefruit juice, and I still have half the grapefruit sitting on my counter so I can eat those fresh. Grapefruit for me, I don't know if this would work for anybody else, but when I have a sweets craving, like for chocolate, I can sip on some grapefruit juice and it makes my craving go away. So that's even better. And then I bought 2 bags of the shredded lettuce to use for salad, and I'm hoping that will be enough. I'm hoping that will be enough to get us into next week. But that means, so at Aldi, I spent $24.26. I'll get it up close to that for you. At Food City, this very long receipt for 2 items. These 2 items were the creamer and the apples, and it was $14.65. We do have tax on food here in Tennessee. It's lower than the regular sales tax, but it's not low. So that means that this week, I spent $38.91 with these 2 added together. And since my budget was $50, I have $11.09 left over that I can put onto next week, which I'm excited about. One of the things that helped me this week was that there were no great, awesome deals that I felt like I was missing out on. I don't have a lot of fear of missing out or FOMO syndrome in my life, but grocery deals I do. But there was nothing that I was like, oh, I need to go stock up on that. So I was not antsy at all about only getting the things on my list this week. But that also allows me to have $11 extra next week in case there is a deal, so I can get a little more of that. I actually wouldn't mind if there aren't more great deals, because that would be even more of a savings. So did good this week. I had some other thoughts real quick I wanted to share. For the week coming ahead, I still have fresh stuff to use. I thought I would use like the fresh, like the refrigerator and counter produce stuff this week, and I didn't. I still have several tangerines. I still have potatoes. I've got sweet potatoes, but I knew I'd have those. I've still got green onions and cilantro in the crisper. I've got Apples, they'll last longer. I've some more produce. I've got some broccoli in there I need to use. I still have fresh stuff to use. I'm doing an experiment with the shredded lettuce. I learned a long time ago that if I keep the leftover lettuce like in an open package in a glass jar instead of a plastic bag, that it will last longer. I did this whole scientific experiment with 3 trials of everything and overtime and yada yada. Basically, if you put, the lettuce in a bag with paper towel, it lasts longer than without. In a jar, lasts longer than the plastic bag. In a jar with the paper towel, lasts even longer. But we're talking a couple days longer here. Somebody told me that they tried it in the jar, but vacuum sealed the jar. And I have like a handheld vacuum sealer, and that it lasted like 6 weeks. That would be amazing. I don't even need to get 6 weeks out of it. I would just really like it because we eat it fast, but I would just like it to stay nice and not start to get those brown edges. So I'm experimenting with that, and I should be able to let you know next week if that vacuum sealed lettuce is still good. The freezer already looks way better than when I started. It looks even better, I would say, than when I did the freezer challenge in October, which I do. I'll link that playlist. I do every October, kind of just not like a pantry challenge where I'm trying to stay out of the store, but I'm trying to focus on using that stuff and just a shelf or two to make space for some freezer meals for the busy holiday season and for when I pre-bake cookies, because that freeze well to later go in my Christmas baskets. But it's looking good out there. I have high hopes for the end of this challenge and being able to organize my freezer well. Maybe, okay. So here's one thing about what I've learned so far. So I honestly thought I wouldn't learn anything this time in the pantry challenge. You learn a lot your first year about where your holes are, what you've stocked up on, you learn more about your shopping behaviors. You think you would learn that while you're shopping, but you don't. You learn it there. But I've been doing like a pantry clean out like every year for years and years. So at this point, I know where my holes are. I do pretty well. So I was like, I'm not really gonna learn anything, but I'll still do this because it helps me organize. I actually did learn something, and that was like my edamame story. I tend to buy things that are on sale that we would eat, but aren't part of our regular ingredient rotation, and they tend to sit there. Sometimes it's something like the edamame that I could just pull it out and make a side. Or sometimes it's a new ingredient that looks interesting to me. Like I know that I have a bag of frozen riced sweet potato out there that I have not used, but I wanted to try, make like a little bowl with it, but I just haven't done it. And so I think that's, reflecting on that, I was thinking maybe that's because it takes more energy to use a new to you ingredient. Like you've got to think it's not like the edamame I could just throw in last minute. I knew what I would do with it. We just steam it with butter and garlic salt, and that's how we like it. But with something like sweet potato that I haven't used before, not that it's a hard thing to use, but I got to decide what I'm going to use it for. Everything else out there, I have 20 different things I'm always using it for, So I think that I either need to make a decision to, when I buy those things, use them that week, like think when I'm buying it, like what is already on my menu that I could throw this into, or commit to going home and looking up a recipe to try it and doing it that week, or I need to not buy them. I don't like the not buying them option, not only because I like the sales, but I think it is good to experiment with new ingredients. Not only may you find something that you like, but it's good to, in our current era, let's say that you normally get a certain frozen vegetable and it's not available. You have shortages, but all that's available is something like this. Well, it's far more beneficial to you, I think, if you have tried to use it or you know how you would use it, versus it just being brand new to you when you don't have any other options. So I think it's helpful, not just expanding your diet, trying new things, but also just in preparing yourself, like, oh yeah, I've used riced sweet potato from the freezer before. I know what I could do with this. It's not my first choice, but I know what I could do with it. I'm thinking ahead to like, what kind of parameters am I going to give myself on a regular basis when I'm shopping, when it comes to things that aren't the stuff I'm always using, like canned tomatoes or canned green beans or pretty much any frozen meat. Just the thought of something I've learned. So I guess you're always learning, even when you think you're not going to. Anyways, that is this week's pantry challenge. I'm excited about how I did. I'm excited about the week ahead. We do have a couple nights eating out this week. Many of you mentioned in my last video that you were doing some sort of challenge yourself. I would love to know your updates in the comments below. Like, how did you do? Just give me your updates and how you did. I'm curious to know. And I will see you next week on Monday again, because I'm doing Monday to Sunday weeks since that's when the month started. And I will give you updates on week 2 then. I'll see you guys next time.